Like most of us, I grew up in my parents' vision of what made them happy. And for my father, it was the woods. He loved the country. And that's where I grew up. But I didn't love the woods because I had asthma and allergies, and I'd get bit by ticks, and I felt very isolated. My mom was from New York City, and she would take me there a lot. And I just knew that I'd rather live in New York City than in the country. I also really didn't like the blizzards in the country. They were rough. I learned from an early age that I preferred warm weather and the beach. It's where I felt best. I also felt amazing when I went to visit my grandfather who moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. I felt so calm and peaceful, but I was raised to believe that it wasn't realistic to live someplace this beautiful. That's someplace you went on vacation to escape your daily life living elsewhere. So after high school, I decided I was going to go to college in New York City, and I pretended that my childhood bedroom was my apartment. When I was graduating, my mother told me, "You'll never get into that college. You should settle for less because your SAT scores and grades aren't high enough." But I applied and I got in based on my personal essay. I got a job at the Strand Bookstore downtown New York City, and it's right near Union Square. It was a great place to work. I loved living in New York City for college. It was a blessing and a great opportunity. I would go to poetry slams. I'd spend my days in museums doing homework. I was studying communication, so I got to work in a lot of different types of media. And I even started my own zine called Proof Downtown, about downtown New York City culture being young. And I hired interns from NYU and Columbia to help me with interviews, and it did really well. It sold out. But those winters were still brutal, and I got sick at age 21, and I just physically couldn't handle the stress and the weather. So I tried living in Seattle, Washington for a year, and my health didn't do so much better there either. It was still cold and damp most of the year, and even though it was a beautiful place to live, I just came back home very, very sick. So I knew that I did well at the beach, so I decided to live at the beach, and that is where I recovered from my health in my late 20s. I had a little studio apartment overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. I lived there with my cat. I'd take her for beach walks. I got jobs in publishing, working for Good Times, where I got to get backstage passes and interview bands like Blink-182 and some other of my favorite bands and authors. And I also was an editor for Long Island Woman. It's a magazine here, and I volunteered as a creative writing teacher for an alternative high school where these kids had a hard time at home, so they needed to go to an alternative high school. And I taught them how to use writing as a therapeutic tool, and we also launched their first yearbook ever. And that was something really, really special for them. I grew a little garden on my porch in Long Beach, New York, and I tried to make it the best place possible, but I was still sick every fall and winter. And my soul longed to live someplace where I could feel good year-round. So I went to California, and I spent some time there to see how I felt, and I felt fantastic. So I knew this was my new vision. I didn't have a lot of support in New York. No one believed I would be able to make it there, but I traveled cross-country because I was used to hearing this before. I just trusted my gut, and I found my first house rental in Belmont Shore. It had a lemon tree in the yard, and I felt good year-round, finally. Trust your vision, protect your vision, do what your soul knows is right for you.